Hey guys, welcome to the Prowler Podcast. Today we're thrilled to have Michael Dallas, one of my good friends, with us. We're ready to deep dive into his college journey, primarily in baseball, while also shedding light on his experience with high school recruiting and football as a dual sport athlete, hailing from Briarcrest Christian School, Memphis, Tennessee. We went to the same high school. Michael brings a unique perspective to the table. With that, without further ado, let's turn it over to Michael as he introduces himself and shares more about his background.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to be on the podcast, man. Love to do these things, and it's pretty cool to talk to you about this journey, especially with kind of everything changing, especially even from me in high school, getting like throughout my recruiting process, I can see things changing along the way. So yeah, I played three sports in high school: baseball, basketball, and football. Was not lucky enough to be recruited in basketball. Wasn't that good, but baseball and football was kind of my thing. Really, baseball was my sport. Football was kind of just something I did because it was fun to play. But as I got older and got a little bit better, I started to experience some recruiting also on that side at the same time. So, yeah, went to Briarcrest Christian School and had an absolute great experience doing both baseball and football in high school.
So, Michael, really, we're trying to get these high school athletes to like get familiar with the new recruiting process and transfer portal and stuff, and how it's really like free agency now, and everywhere you go, and you can really go anywhere you want to go, and so really, like, how has it changed due to like what sophomore year of high school to your junior year of college now, and how has it changed like with you from transferring to Kentucky to Jackson State?
Yeah, the recruiting process in high school versus the recruiting process coming out of the transfer portal is it's pretty wild. From coming into high school, it's a very in-depth process of coaches coming to see you, coaches hearing from you from different places, whether that's high school ball, prospect camp, whatever, or your travel ball, them seeing you in person, and then depending on the ages with the rules and everything, them reaching out to a coach and then you calling them. It's a very long process. They do a lot of their homework on high school guys, and they really want to get to know you, get to know your family, get to know everything about you. And they really go into detail asking all your coaches about you, like what kind of person you are, how hard you play, all these things. They watch everything from you actually playing the game to how you treat your teammates, if you're a good teammate or not, and all these crazy different things. So from the high school perspective, it was a very in-depth recruiting process all the way from my freshman year to my senior year. After I transferred from Kentucky to Jacksonville State, my after my freshman year of college, it happened very fast. So I entered the portal pretty late in the process, and as soon as my name hit the portal, where all the coaches get to see it, my phone was blowing up. You have texts and DMs on Twitter and all these different things. People calling you, you don't know who it is, and instantly everybody's just trying to get you to come, trying to get you to come. They don't even do that much research. Honestly, it was really just like, hey, like we saw that you entered the portal. We'd love to have you. We saw that you were a great player in high school, this and that, and they really don't do much other than that than just immediately trying to get you on a visit or doing that. So from when I entered the portal to when I committed was probably only a few weeks. And that's pretty crazy timing to think about it. Through all the 4 years of high school it took to get to one place, and then you transfer in the portal and you're at a whole new place in a few weeks. It's a whole different ball game.
Right. So you were a dual sport athlete in high school. From your perspective, what was the difference between football recruiting and baseball recruiting? Two totally different sports. Like, programs are different. Everything is a lot different. So, what could you give advice on to kids that are dual sport athletes in high school? What advice can you give them coming up through the recruiting process?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think being a dual sport athlete helped me probably more than anything else I could have done in high school. There's many times I thought about quitting football and just solely focusing on baseball. Um, but thinking back to it, like football made me a better baseball player, and playing baseball made me a better football player. And I'm so glad that I stuck to doing both of those at the same time. And for me personally, I was always had my mindset on playing baseball in college, and that was the only thing I was going to do. until around my junior year. I was a quarterback and I started playing pretty well. And I had some coaches start talking to my coaches about me and what my interests were and if I had any interest in playing football at the next level. And that came from a few coaches coming to watch our better players play and then seeing me play as well. And so with football recruiting, I'm not as in depth on that side. I didn't go to any camps. I didn't do any of those things. The only experiences I had with football recruiting was other coaches coming to watch our best players play and them seeing me and then them reaching out. Like I had a few coaches, like the Tennessee coach asked about me, asked if I had any interest in playing in football there and stuff like that. And my senior year, so this was the craziest thing that happened to me, which was insane to me how the football recruiting world works. I was just sitting in class on one random Wednesday, and Tennessee Tech, their head coach, Twitter DM'd me and offered me a full scholarship. I had never talked to him. I had never talked. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea, and he just offered me a full scholarship, offered me to play both baseball and football there, and so from a football perspective, things can happen fast. From baseball, I feel like it happens very slow, very slow. You build this relationship, and all these things have to happen. From a football perspective, if they see you one time and they like you, they act on it pretty fast. So two completely different things from my perspective. But I loved being able to do both, and I think that helped me to eventually get where I wanted to be.
Right. We went to a pretty big high school to where we had a bunch of good players. So, I mean, even if you weren't like getting recruited, like if the scouts came to your game, they're going to watch the players, but they're also going to see you out there, playing well. And so,
yep. So that's exactly what happened with me. We had Jabari and Omari and all these big time guys. The Tennessee head coach came to watch their players who they were committed at the time. And he was like, wait, who is this kid? And so that's how easily it can happen for you. But
right. And when you talk to people about Briarcrest, like, you're playing ball there, you're pretty good, right? So that being said, what's the different types of questions you got asked in high school versus the transfer portal? What was the difference there? Like the questions that you were asked and everything like that.
yeah, so in high school, it was like I said earlier, it was a much deeper like process with getting to know me and getting to know my family. There was multiple. We had, especially when I was getting recruited by Kentucky, we had multiple sit downs with not just me, but both my mom and my dad at the same time, and talking through things, talking through what type of player they think I am, what type of person they think I am, how that I fit into their program. All these things like my work ethic, all of the intangibles that come along with being a baseball player. Versus when I hit the transfer portal, it just was like, hey, like we saw that you're coming from a big school and we know that you were a great player in high school. Obviously, I was the number one ranked shortstop in Tennessee. So they're like, okay, like obviously you're good. You're coming from a big school. We'd love for you to come here. And I played a little bit my freshman year at Kentucky, but I didn't get to play a lot. So I don't have much film. And so all the stuff I'm sending them is like a few at bats during the year and a few like fall game at bats and stuff like that. So there's really not much current film I can send them versus in high school where they're coming to watch my games and they're sending guys out to come watch me versus in college. I hit the transfer portal and first time I meet the coach is when I've already committed. I'm on campus for the first day of practice. Like that's pretty much how fast it can happen.
Right. So like going from SEC to the Ohio Valley Conference, right? Jacksonville State.
We're now in Conference USA.
Conference USA now. Is it so? SEC is obviously a bigger conference, right? I mean, SEC ball is just different than the South. Is it a bad idea to go from a bigger school like that to go to a lower tier conference to maybe get more playing time, to get more recognition for like scouts in the MLB, or maybe to transfer back out? Like, people they can transfer, go to 4 different schools. Everybody's transferring every single year. It doesn't matter. Like you're not getting enough playing time, you want out of there, right? So,
yeah. So if I had to do it all again, now with the way the transfer portal works now, man, all the really big schools, the Power 5 schools, really are heavy on getting like the grad transfers and the older guys that have already played college baseball for 3 or 4 years. letting them play a year or two, and then doing the same thing every year. So as a freshman, you've always been taught like, yeah, like you're probably not going to play your first year, maybe your second year, but you're getting developed, and then you kind of get your time. I just don't feel like it's worked out to be that way now. I feel like probably if I was a freshman again in that recruiting process, I probably would consider going to junior college first. It's only going to be a 2-year thing. Get those 2 years of playing 60 games a year and get that real good experience under your belt before then you go to an SEC school that's already looking for that experience that you have now. And I think that's probably actually a much better route for success and a sustained success now in the college game with the transfer portal than with me going to an SEC school my freshman year and then getting put behind 24-year-olds every single year. It was hard. It was just a different game than I expected. And so that's why I ended up transferring to Jacksonville State, just put myself in a better position.
Right. That's right on. But what advice can you give athletes in the transfer portal now, or a high school athlete, on what to work on to make them stand out on the field, but not only on the field, but in the classroom as well? Like once you get to college, adjusting from high school to college classes, and from high school ball to college ball, and then everything like that. What advice can you give them?
Yeah, probably the first thing that you're going to find out real quick is time management, man. From waking up every day, your day needs to be planned out for you. And it's going to be hard, man. You walk in freshman year and you have so many responsibilities. You got to be in all these in-person classes. You got to be doing your study hall hours, because most freshmen are required to be doing study hall hours. You got to be in class. I mean, you got to be doing you got to be at practice. You got to be eating well. It's really hard for you to maintain and gain weight, especially your freshman year, because you're just incredibly busy. So what helped me the most was I actually, the day before every day, I had planned out to the hour, almost to the minute, what I was doing the next day. I was waking up, going to breakfast, going to study hall for an hour, going to class, getting a snack, going to another class, eating lunch, going to practice, going back to study hall. And especially if you want to do individual work on your own, you're not going to get better just doing what everyone else does. So if you're working extra, you got to really plan out all these things. And I think that's the biggest part from going to high school to college. You're so independent. It's on you. Like nobody else is you're the biggest determining factor on how successful you're going to be. So you can't rely on anybody else. You got to do everything and make sure that you're on top of everything. So that would probably be the biggest advice I have.
That's really good, Michael. But lastly, what are personally your thoughts on the transfer portal and the environment of NIL, and how can young high school athletes and young college athletes maneuver that, like going through the portal and everything?
Yeah, I think it's definitely changed a lot in today's game. There's not a lot of tie down to a school anymore. Like
Loyalty.
I feel like there's definitely not as much loyalty as there used to be, especially from coaches to players. It goes both ways, especially schools. Like if you transfer to a school, or you go to a school and you're not the best that they thought you were, or they just transferred in another guy at your same position, then boom, you get the boot and you're gone. It's just as easy. But the same thing, it opens up the opportunity for smaller schools to recruit from bigger schools that some of their kids recruit down. But also the same thing is the star players on the mid-major teams always get taken up to the SEC, the Power 5 schools every year. So there's some give and take in it. There's some pluses, there's some minuses. I mean, it hasn't been around for very long yet, so everything's going to kind of get worked out. But as a player, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to try to go to the place where you think you're going to be the most successful, not only in your sport, but in life. What are you going to do after your sport? How do you think that school gets you there? Like I'm at Jacksonville State right now. They got a great business college, and that's what I plan to do after I stop playing baseball. So that was a big determining factor for me to transfer here. So I think you got to be a professional, either player or person. So you got to go to the place that makes you one of the two. So
Right, and you hear Nick Saban talk about it, well, greatest college coach of all time. That's one of the main reasons he retired. Is like he talked about how him and his wife would have all these recruits over for breakfast the next day after a game, and how they were just worried about, what money am I getting? Like they're
Yep.
not worried about developing these young kids anymore. Like the parents just want to know how much they're getting paid. So I think that's really NIL can be a good thing, but it's also it can be a bad thing. And like the transfer portal, it, personally, I think there should be more limits on it because I mean there has to be a little bit of loyalty for a team, right? Has to be loyalty, there has to be relationship, and there has to be commitment. And I really just makes it seem like well these kids transferring so much, there's not much commitment to it one team nowadays. So, but did you hear about the rumors about IMG Academy maybe going to Birmingham, like where Birmingham Southern was?
Nah.
IMG has been talking about moving to Birmingham Southern because Birmingham Southern is like no longer going to be a school at the end of this year.
Yep.
And how could that change like the the athletes in Alabama? Like how could that change how they go throughout with the recruiting process, and how could that change like other high schools like and talent they get if IMG goes to Birmingham?
Yeah, that would be a pretty big shakeup. I can't imagine if something like that happened to Tennessee, and those were the teams that we had to play. That is pretty much boarding in the best athletes around, the best athletes in the country, not just in the state, but the country. So that'd be a pretty big shakeup for sure.
All right, well, thanks, Mike, for taking your time to come on and share your knowledge to give other athletes. And thank you all for tuning into the Prowler Podcast. We look forward to continuing to expand our awareness of our platform, and we look forward to partnering with those who are serious about playing their sport at the next level. And again, we have a weekly quote. There may be people that have more talent than you, but there's no excuse for anyone to work harder than you do. Derek Jeter. Next week, we will have Wes Bradford on, a former Prowler recruit who is planning on attending Illinois College. The conversation will be on how the Prowlers approach benefited him and how it has helped him get to the point he's at. So, as always, Prowler up, and we'll see you all next week.